Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. I'm out in the vegetable garden today, and it's very blustery and there's some rather frightening looking clouds coming this way. So we'll see how much I can accomplish today. For my March 14th garden column, I wrote about gutter peas. And what that means is starting your pea seeds in rain gutters of all things, and then at planting time just sliding them out of the gutters into a trench in a bed, and it is so easy. The funny thing is, I've shot videos about this over the last 3 years, but I've never written a column about it, so I thought it was high time I did that. So let me explain a little bit more about this method, and then what I'm going to do today is get some pea seeds started in them, and then we'll go from there. I first heard about gutter peas while watching some gardening videos on YouTube, and you know how that goes. You watch one video and then something else catches your eye and something else does, and next thing you know it's an hour later. Well, I stumbled onto some videos made by different allotment gardeners in Britain, and they kept talking about gutter peas, and I thought, that sounds disgusting. What is that? So it turns out a lot of folks in Britain have problems with mice eating their pea seeds and young sprouts. And so what they do is they start their peas in these rain gutters, and usually they'll put them, once they've planted the seeds, into a greenhouse or inside a sunny window, something like that. Let the plants get growing, because you want to have a lot of greenery and a good mat of roots. And that is the secret to being able to slide them out. But mainly what they were trying to do is to let the peas get established enough to where they're not going to be bothered by the mice. So I thought, well, that's an interesting prospect. Now the reason I like gutter peas is because we have a lot of quail in our garden, and they're not mice, but they do like to nibble on freshly sprouted pea seeds. It's quite annoying. So that's one reason that many years ago I started my pea seeds indoors, and that has been an annual ritual. But I use a 72 cell flat, and you can imagine how tedious it is to carefully remove one seedling at a time, dig an individual hole, plant the individual seedling, and then repeat that 71 more times. So when I saw how they also could slide all of the seedlings out very quickly, I thought, yeah, I've got to try that. So this is my 4th year that I'll be doing gutter peas, and I've figured out a few new things last year that have made me more successful at getting them all to slide out of the gutter. So I'll share that with you today. Now let's talk a little bit about the gutters. So they are made out of vinyl. They're very easy to find at home centers, and they're not expensive. They come in 10-foot lengths, and we generally plant peas in 8-foot long raised beds. So what we did is we cut each of 2 10-foot long gutters into roughly 4-foot long pieces. And that way they're easier to manage. And also, since I'm going to be babying them for a few weeks before I plant them out in the garden, this is a much easier size to have inside our sliding glass door. So that's what we've done. You can buy end caps for them, but I'm being cheap. These cost, the 10-foot lengths cost about $5 each, and I bought 2. And I think the end caps are like about $5 each, and I thought, I am not spending that money. So what I did is I took some cardboard and just cut little inserts, and even though they don't fill this area of the gutter, I'm only putting about 2 inches of soil into the gutters to start the peas. So these will still prevent any soil from falling out the ends. So I just want to clarify the materials that I'm using. Our favorite variety of pea is Green Arrow, which is a shelling pea. But it doesn't matter what kind of pea you're growing. You can use the snap peas, the edible pod peas. All of those will work in this method. Boy, I would pick a stormy day to do this, but my goal is to have the seeds coming up before the end of this video, so we shall see how that goes. I'm just using a regular potting mix for this. It doesn't have anything fancy in it. And I have pre-moistened it, so I'm going to make a nice muddy mess here. And again, I'm just going to fill this gutter with about 2 inches of the potting soil. It's much easier to pre-moisten the mix first instead of trying to water later, because sometimes the water just doesn't want to get absorbed into it. Now my goal is to plant a double row of peas in each of the gutters, and that works really well. That's not too much. And we'll end up with a whole lot of peas when the time comes, and that'll be great. I love fresh peas. And you just can't beat homegrown. Okay, so there's one. And you know, I think I'm going to plant this right away just because I keep looking at the clouds and they look, yeek, very ominous. So I'll go ahead and plant this so you can see how it goes. And then hopefully I can get the other 3 planted before the sky lets loose. One thing I neglected to mention is that I'm using an organic potting soil. That is really important to me when I'm starting edible crops. So I just wanted to mention that. So I'm spacing these 2 sets of peas 2 inches apart roughly, maybe 1.5 inches. It's not going to make a huge difference. I've got a little sparrow singing to me over my shoulder here. So once I put all these peas in place, I'm going to poke them in with my finger. That's the easiest way to do it. And it's very quick. I'm pushing the seeds about 1/2 inch down. Maybe I can do this with both hands here and be faster. And then I'll sprinkle on a little bit more potting soil just to cover the planting holes. Okay, so there is 1 gutter done. 3 to go. Sky still looks ominous, but I'm going to keep going. If you hear a loud crack, I hope you'll come to my funeral. One thing I wanted to mention with pea seeds is if you ever come across one that's just like half a seed, just toss it because it is not going to germinate. Well, it just started sleeting outside, so I decided I was going to move into our little greenhouse, at least out of the cold wind and the weather for the moment. But this is the last one that I need to plant, and then I can make a dash to the house with them. Now, one other thing I'm going to do before I can call them completely planted is to sprinkle a very light layer of finely milled sphagnum moss. That is an organic material that inhibits the growth of damping off disease, which is a horrible fungus that can kill off seedlings in nothing flat. It's very inexpensive. I use a brand called No Damp Off. It's really very economical, and it's going to last a very long time for me, so I heartily recommend doing that. And then when I put these inside our sliding glass door for a few days until they germinate, I'm going to put a little layer of clear plastic to increase the humidity, just like you would if you were going to use a plastic dome or a plastic bag around a seedling flat in order to help the seeds germinate. I planted the pea seeds on Sunday, and now it's Thursday. They're not up yet, but I'm not alarmed because they probably just need a couple more days and then they'll be up in force. But because it's Thursday, I need to release this video, and I don't want to leave you hanging. So here's what I'm going to do. In my blog post for March 14th, and also in the description that goes with this video on my YouTube channel, I'm going to provide you with 2 links to some previous videos I've shot on growing gutter peas. And that way you get the whole picture of it, how to do this from start to finish. Then what I'm going to do is continue adding to this video this year so that I have an updated video that shows the entire process of growing gutter peas. Now I have a couple of updates I wanted to show you before I close, so let's do that next. I thought you might be curious to see how the lettuce is doing in the cloche. And you're not seeing double. I actually added in another cloche to this bed because this is officially the lettuce bed for this season. And so I thought, why not space them appropriately under these 2 cloches? So I'll give you a little peek. It has been very cold. I have been actually putting the paint tarp over the top of them at night. I have not planted this one yet because I'm waiting for the soil to warm up a little bit more. But the evenings have gotten down into about 28 degrees or thereabouts. And so obviously these plants are not growing by leaps and bounds, but our forecast is looking really good for the coming week. So I think this is very promising, and I will get the rest of the lettuce planted. Well, you can see the plants are still alive, and it has been very, very cold. I think they're really going to start putting on some growth now that we have some warm weather coming up. So that's the update on those. The other update I wanted to give you was about my artichokes. You'll recall I shot a video called Seed Starting Number 3, and in it I talked about seed treatments such as vernalization, stratification, and scarification. Because I live in a cold climate, zone 5B, I need to grow artichokes as annual plants. They will not make it through our winters, although we are experimenting with that, seeing if we can get them to overwinter. But in the meantime, what I'm doing is I'm using the vernalization process before I plant my artichoke seeds. So that involved putting the seeds in a little baggie of some peat moss in the refrigerator for 2 weeks, and then after that, taking them out and starting the seeds just like I normally would with any kind of seed starting that I do indoors. So now you can see several days later the seeds have sprouted. I planted 5 seeds, 4 of them germinated, so that's an 80% germination rate, which is acceptable, although it would have been nice to have that 5th one sprout. So now I'm just going to care for them indoors like I normally would with other plants. That involves keeping an eye on the soil moisture, watering them as needed, and then once they have a couple of true leaves, which you can see are just starting to develop, but I want to wait until they're full size, I'm going to start feeding them with a liquid high nitrogen fertilizer, but I'm going to dilute it at half strength, meaning I'm not using as much of the solution to the water that it gets mixed with. So I'm going to do that about every 2 weeks. When I see the roots coming out the bottom of the container, I'm going to up-pot them to a larger pot because it's going to be a while before they get planted in the garden. 2 weeks before our last frost date, I'm going to put the plants outdoors. I'm not going to let them get frosted though, but I want them to be chilled again. The whole concept of vernalization, whether it's relating to seeds or seedlings is that you're exposing them to some cooler temperatures so they think they've been through a winter. That means they're going to focus their efforts this year on producing and setting those lovely artichokes that we all enjoy eating. Okay, so that's the news from my garden for this week. If you're enjoying my videos, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe, because that way you know exactly when a brand new video is out. Until next week, I'll see you later. And before I go, this is just a friendly reminder that I have a brand new book coming out, the Vegetable Garden Pest Handbook. I wrote it for all levels of gardeners, from beginners to master gardeners. This will help you identify both the good bugs and the bad bugs in your garden and provide you with all sorts of methods for dealing with the bad ones using effective organic controls. This is going to be such a great resource for all gardeners. If you pre-order it now, you will receive special bonus content that is not in the book and can't be found elsewhere. It contains my best tips for growing your favorite veggies and some you might not have thought of. All you have to do is order it from your bookstore or preferred online source and email me your order confirmation. My email address is susan@susansinthegarden.com. Then I'll send you a link to the bonus content. This is a great deal.